For all those who remember these guys,
They're game! They're fucking game!
probably one of the heaviest band in the scene, but what's their story? Who was their first vocalist? What happened? That's what we're gonna discuss today. So my friend, as usual, take a cup of coffee, a cigarette, salmon, whatever you feel like as we explore the xTheYan Myspace era. So the band was founded in 2005 in Seattle, Washington. And Jonathan Huber wasn't in the band yet. There was a guy named Garrett. Evan, the main guitar player, also wasn't in xTheYan yet. So with their original lineup, they actually released a metalcore demo of 3 songs. Alright, so pretty good. Rough around the edges, sure, but it was 2005. And I think it's interesting to see that even back then they had like 1,000 breakdowns, especially knowing what xTheYan would become. So not too long after releasing their demo, Jonathan and Evan officially joined xTheYan, and later in 2006, they released their first album called What You Deserve. Pretty sick. I mean, still metalcore, but as you probably heard, the production overall, the quality was way better. I also think it's cool that all 3 songs from the demo were featured on the album. So after the release of the album, they started promoting it live, and it went very well. Unfortunately, I don't have any footage of it, but it actually got them signed with Compton Records. It was a small record label that signed like 5 other bands or something, but still, they got noticed. Which brings us to 2007, when xTheYan released their new album called Amidst the Bloodshed. Yeah, I mean, very good album in my opinion. Still kind of metalcore, but they were starting to, incorporate two steps, and they were getting closer to the xTheYan War sound that we all know. I really enjoyed the guttural vocals and the breakdowns. I think Jonathan did a very fine job on this one. So after the success of the album, they went on tour with Whitechapel. Apparently, during the tour, they got closer with the band and they became kind of like friends with them, as Whitechapel were impressed by their performance and were connecting with them, which eventually paid off, but we'll get to that. So 2 years later, in 2009, they went through a lot of lineup changes, and it actually left Jonathan and Evan as the only two remaining original members. On a more positive note, in 2009 already, they were blowing up on Myspace. It was amazing to see. I actually remember, which is pretty cool because their artwork finally paid off. They got signed by Artery Recording, a very good upcoming amazing record label. Apparently the story goes like this. Artery would have called Alex from Whitechapel asking what band they should look into, and he said xTheYan War, which goes without saying that having friends and making connection can help and change your whole career. So the following year, in 2010, they released their album called Malevolence. Man, this record rips. I think it's a very underrated album, by the way. I mean, Jonathan's vocals, like super guttural, and the riff were badass. Everything was great about this album. They made an official video for the song Federal Death Alliance. And then they went back on tour to promote the album, and guess with which band they went? Whitechapel. Alright, so now, I don't know if you remember the band Disfiguring the Goddess. Well, back in those days, Jonathan actually did a collab with them. It was heavy as f***, and they called it xTheYan Goddess. Unfortunately, later that year, Jonathan left the band, saying he was tired of this whole breakdown, mushing type of music. And in his opinion, the market was oversaturated, and he was actually kind of right. What I mean by that is there was like thousands of new upcoming bands in deathcore. So I can understand from his perspective that there was like too many bands of the same style. He also said that he was actually way more into brutal death. So not long after quitting xTheYan War, he joined another band called Pathology. Jonathan was then quickly replaced by Jamie Hanks from Those Who Lie Beneath.
For
Jamie apparently received a call from the bassist of xTheYan while they were on tour, asking him to join the band, and he had only 10 days to learn like multiple songs. Imagine that. Fortunately for him, what he mentioned in an interview is that most of the vocals were gutturals, so it didn't really matter if he remembered the lyrics or not, as long as he was making the right sounds, which I thought was pretty funny. So with their new lineup, they went back in the studio, and yes, they released amazing studio updates.
What's up, everybody? Evan from xTheYan here. We are currently in Richmond, Virginia right now, tracking our new album.
Sorry to interrupt.
I hope I do justice to what has already been established in this band.
I think this album's a lot better. Everything's pretty much better. I think the riffs are better.
I really took a lot of time in listening to other bands' songs that I really liked. Steel. Ah yes, Cuban B.
Which brings us to 2011, when they released my personal favorite record, their self-titled xTheYan.
They came! They fucking came!
Freaking wild. I mean, this album just has you make this face. You know, it's so good, so brutal and raw. You know what I mean? Like, most bands, they do early demos and EPs that are kind of raw, but xTheYan managed to keep this rawness through, multiple albums, which I'm realizing is difficult and rare. To me, this is when they became xTheYan. No disrespect to Jonathan, I mean, I'm a huge fan of his vocals and what he did, and no disrespect to the other members previously in the band, but I really feel like they found their sound on this one. It was very unique, it was so good. Jamie's vocals are so incredibly outstanding and brutal. You can hear the anger. I could talk about this record for days. It was that good. My personal favorite was Misery Cloud with the infamous intro with the
They came! They fucking came!
It was so wild. But apparently the biggest song for them was Human Waste, as they explained in an interview.
You put out Human Waste as the first, is it the first single?
Yeah, we're probably gonna be doing a video for that at some point also.
Okay, and is that something that fans could listen to and use as like sort of an indication of what the new material is like I mean, it's not gonna be representative of the entire album, obviously, but as far as like the ridiculous drumming, for example, and I know you have a new vocalist on this record as well.
Yeah. The reason we picked that song to put out first is because it's very, I don't know, it covers pretty much everything that we do on the new record. There's like, Ryan really stepped up his game drumming. We added a different kind of approach to guitars. There's a little bit more complexity, but it's a lot more simple at the same time. And that song also shows Jamie's vocal range really well. And, he can do the really high highs and do the guttural stuff and the really mean mids. So that song just really shows every territory that the record covers. So
during the same interview, he got asked one of my favorite questions. How was it like to be labeled as a deathcore band?
Anytime anyone asks me that, I say we're metal.
You're metal. Okay. I know how you felt about that term. That's the only thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of unfair to group bands together, you know, but we're just a metal band. We're heavy and pissed off and loud, so we're metal.
I love his answer. Metal. Keep it simple. Anyway, the performances live were absolutely incredible. Wow, man, I mean, how awesome was that? So then they released an official live performance video for the song Misery Cloud. And another one for Purification of the Population. Unfortunately, in 2012, the band went through another major lineup change. Again, leaving Jamie as the only original member, believe it or not. Fortunately for him and for the band, he was quick on his feet and he found other members to, you know, keep the band going. They did some awesome shows with their new lineup. Which brings us to 2014, when they released a brand new album called We Are Violent People by Nature. Good album, very different, which completely makes sense if you consider the fact that it was a complete new band, basically. But yeah, it was good. I'd say it was a little more polished, which makes it a little less heavy in my opinion. But that being said, I think it was an evolution in terms of songwriting and technicality. The album reached number 13 on the Billboard Heat Seeker charts, which is quite impressive for a band like xTheYan. They did a pretty cool video for the song Blurred Vision. And of course, once again, the band was killing it live. In 2015, they released an official live performance video for the song Quiet. Also, I think it's worth mentioning that Alex Terrible from Slaughter to Prevail did a cover of Misery Cloud, and it was freaking sick. Which brings us to 2016 when they released their brand new album called Songs for the Sick. I really love this album. For me, it's really a mix of the self-title and their album We Are Violent People by Nature. What I mean by that is they kept their old heaviness and rawness while being more technical and experimenting more with sounds and riff and all that. They also released an instrumental version of the album, which I think is good for like vocal covers or simply to focus more on the music or in the background and stuff like that. Now, believe it or not, the same year in 2016, they went through other lineup changes. They recruited Greg Kirkpatrick, I'm sorry I'm pronouncing that probably terribly, who was in a band called As Blood Runs Black, which I can't wait to make a video about, and Garen Owie as their new drummer. I mean, at least this time they didn't leave Jamie alone in the band, so there's that. Of course, once again, the performances live were crazy. Which brings us to 2018 when they released a cover of the song Dead and Bloated by a rock band called Stone Temple Pilots. Pretty cool, I mean, it was original. Anyway, in 2019, they released a brand new EP called Downcast. Hell yeah, man. I mean, this EP rips. I mean, they were fully back into the heaviness of the self-title. If you never listened to this one, I really recommend. You won't be disappointed. Which kind of brings us to today. And yes, they're still killing it. And that's pretty much it, guys. I mean, I'm very glad I did this video because I believe I Declare War deserves way more recognition and credit. They're amazing. They are extremely underrated. I mean, I still remember the first time I heard Misery Cloud. I was listening to this song like 20 times a day. It was crazy. I also remember back then on Tumblr, they were doing like Q&As and stuff, and I would ask them questions, and they were super genuine guys, so like I'm very grateful for everything they accomplish, and I think they're a great band, and I'm kind of praying that they would come and play in Montreal, maybe one day. So yeah, as usual, if you want to support me in the channel, just leave a like and subscribe. It means the world. Take a little minute of your time and leave a comment about what you think of the band or my videos or even me, whatever. I like reading your comments, you know. Take my coffee in the morning. I read pretty much all the comments. It's amazing. I love hearing your stories or reading your stories, I guess. And on that note, I'm gonna stop talking. I'll see you in the next one.